At 82 years old, I've had my fair share of life lessons. Some were joyful, some painful, but all of them taught me something. And while I've made peace with most of the choices I've made over the years, there's one decision that still weighs heavy on my heart. Moving into a nursing home. At the time, it felt like the right thing to do. My family meant well. They wanted me safe, cared for, and comfortable. I'd had a few slips around the house. One was just a stumble in the kitchen, but it scared my daughter enough to start the conversation. Before I knew it, arrangements were made, my things were packed, and I was being shown to a room that wasn't mine. Everyone said it would be a fresh start, that I'd have people around, no chores to worry about, meals prepared, and medical help just a call button away. It sounded easy, almost like a retirement upgrade. But what they don't tell you is how much you give up in exchange. The truth is, life in a nursing home is not just about convenience or care. It's about change, real, irreversible change. And once you're in, getting out mentally, physically, and practically is far harder than you think. That's why I'm sharing my story, not to scare you, not to place blame, but to help you or someone you love make an informed decision. Before you sign the papers or clear out your living room, please hear me out. There are 6 things I wish someone had told me before I moved into a nursing home. 6 hard truths that could have changed everything. And if you're still with me, I hope you'll stay until the end, because what I've learned might just help you hold on to the life you love a little longer. 1. Losing my independence. The biggest shock I faced after moving into the nursing home wasn't the smaller room, the unfamiliar faces, or even the fixed meal times. It was realizing how quickly I lost control over my own life. Before, in my own home, I had routines. I woke up when I felt rested, sometimes 6 a.m., sometimes closer to 8:30. I made my coffee just the way I liked it, with a little cinnamon and 2 teaspoons of sugar. I'd take a walk around the block, tend to my backyard tomatoes, or sit on my front porch with a good book. Every part of my day was mine to decide. But once I entered the nursing home, that freedom vanished. Suddenly, my life was run on someone else's schedule. Breakfast was served at 7:30 sharp, even if I wasn't hungry yet. The lights went out at 9 p.m., whether I was ready for bed or still halfway through a TV show. If I wanted to take a stroll outside, I had to wait until someone on staff was available to accompany me. Sometimes that meant missing the only sunny hour of the afternoon. Even simple choices, like wearing a flannel shirt instead of a sweater or having oatmeal instead of eggs, started to feel like luxuries, not rights. The first morning I woke up in my new bed, I reached over for my favorite novel. It wasn't there. My bookshelf, my cozy chair, the sound of the wind through my own window, all gone. In their place were beige walls, a twin-size hospital bed, and a call button. That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't home. Not really. And the hardest part? Once you give up your independence, getting it back isn't easy. You start adapting to their system because you have to. You stop asking for flexibility, you begin to shrink into the routine. If you're considering a nursing home, either for yourself or someone you love, ask this question honestly. Are you ready to surrender the little freedoms that make life feel like yours? Because once they're gone, you may miss them more than you ever thought possible. 2. Feeling forgotten. One of the hardest parts about moving into a nursing home wasn't what happened inside. It was what stopped happening outside. The phone calls slowed down, the visits trickled off. And before I knew it, I started to feel like the world had moved on without me. When I first arrived, my family was incredibly supportive. My daughter promised she'd visit every Sunday. My grandkids stopped by with cookies, stories from school, and that burst of energy only teenagers have. For the first few weeks, it felt like I was still part of everything, still connected to the life I left behind. But slowly, life got busy. My daughter started calling instead of visiting. My grandkids were wrapped up in classes, sports, and part-time jobs. I understood. They weren't doing it on purpose. But understanding doesn't make the silence any easier. Holidays were especially tough. There were promises to come by Thanksgiving dinner, a quick visit on Christmas morning, but often something came up. Travel delays, bad weather, or we'll try for next weekend. I found myself sitting in the common room watching the door, hoping the next person who walked in would be for me. Most of the time, they weren't. It's not that my family stopped loving me, it's just that once you're no longer present in their everyday life, it's easy to be forgotten. Out of sight really can become out of mind. I remember one evening in particular. I was sitting on my bed, phone in hand, thinking about calling my son, but I hesitated. I didn't want to seem needy or interrupt his day. So I set the phone down, turned off the lamp, and stared at the ceiling. That quiet moment lingered longer than I care to admit. If you're thinking about a nursing home, ask yourself this: are you prepared for the possibility of loneliness, even when surrounded by people? Because here's the truth. No amount of scheduled bingo nights or hallway chats can replace the warmth of someone who knows you deeply, who chooses to visit not out of obligation, but out of love. And when those visits become rare, the silence can speak volumes. 3. Losing my sense of purpose. Before I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was just changing my address. I didn't realize I was also giving up the very things that gave my days meaning. At home, even the smallest task made me feel useful. I had a routine: water the plants in the morning, brew my own coffee just the way I liked it, sweep the porch, and check the mail. I was still cooking simple meals, folding my own laundry, and organizing little projects around the house. Those might sound like chores to some, but for me, they gave my days structure and purpose. In the nursing home, all of that disappeared. Meals showed up on trays, laundry was done by staff, and my little responsibilities, those tiny but important daily markers, were gone. At first, it felt like a break. No more grocery runs or washing dishes. But before long, I noticed the days started to blend together. Without something to care for, something to work toward, time just stretches. I wasn't the only one feeling it. My neighbor George used to be a carpenter. At 84, his hands were still strong, his mind sharp. Back home, he spent hours in his garage building shelves, birdhouses, little toys for his great-grandkids. But here, there were no tools, no wood, no purpose. One day he looked at me and said, "I don't know what to do with myself anymore." And I knew exactly what he meant. When there's nothing left for you to take care of, nothing that depends on you, it changes the way you see yourself. You start to feel less like a person and more like a patient. And that's a tough shift, especially for folks who spent their whole lives providing for others. If you're thinking about a nursing home, ask yourself this: what gives your life purpose right now, and will you be able to keep that alive once you're no longer in your own space? Because rest is important, yes, but so is having a reason to get out of bed in the morning. And when that reason disappears, a part of you might fade with it. 4. Declining health faster than expected. Before I moved into the nursing home, I wasn't in perfect shape, but I was managing. I could still cook a decent meal, walk up and down my porch steps, and even do a few light stretches in the morning to loosen up my back. My doctor said I was doing well for my age, and I felt proud of that. But once I got into the nursing home, something unexpected happened. I started doing less, not because I wanted to, but because everything was already done for me. Meals were delivered right to my table. No need to stand in the kitchen. Laundry, taken care of. Need something from across the room? Just press the call button. It all felt convenient at first, like a well-earned break. But slowly my body began to change. I noticed my legs didn't feel as strong. Getting up from a chair took more effort. The short walk down the hallway left me winded. I wasn't moving as much, and my body was letting me know it. The truth is, the less you use your muscles, the faster they fade. That's not just a saying, it's a fact. I'd spent over 70 years being active in my own way, gardening, walking to the mailbox, carrying my groceries, and now, within just a few months, I felt 10 years older. And I wasn't alone. I saw the same pattern in others. Folks who walked in using only a cane were suddenly in wheelchairs. People who used to join the exercise group now stayed in bed more often than not. Even my neighbor Alice, a spirited 81-year-old who once insisted on walking 3 laps around the courtyard each day, eventually gave into the comfort of doing less, and it showed. The scary part? You don't even notice it happening until one day you try to do something simple and realize you can't. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, ask yourself this: will you still have the motivation to stay active when everything is set up to make life easier? Because ease can be a blessing, but too much of it can quietly steal your strength, one unwalked hallway at a time. 5. Loss of privacy and dignity. One thing I didn't fully understand before moving into a nursing home was just how much privacy I'd be giving up. I had always valued my personal space, my quiet mornings, the ability to close a door and be alone with my thoughts. Even something as simple as choosing when to shower or what to wear. In my own home, I had full control over my surroundings. If I wanted to sit in silence, I could. If I wanted to take a shower at 9 p.m. or have breakfast in my pajamas at 10:30, no one questioned me. I had space, freedom, and most importantly, dignity. But in the nursing home, that all changed. From the moment I arrived, people were coming in and out of my room. Nurses doing checks, aides dropping off medications, maintenance fixing light bulbs. Even when someone knocked, they often didn't wait for an answer before walking in. It was hard to find a moment truly alone. And then there were the personal tasks. Things I'd handled myself my whole life, bathing, dressing, using the restroom, suddenly required assistance. I know the staff meant well, they were kind, respectful, and doing their jobs, but still it's hard to explain what it feels like to need help with something so intimate. You start to feel less like yourself and more like a patient. Not everyone gets a private room either. Sharing a space with someone you didn't choose, who may snore, talk in their sleep, or watch TV at full volume, can be draining. I was fortunate to have a polite roommate, but I heard stories from others who weren't so lucky. And even the best roommate still means you're rarely truly alone. Little by little, you begin to accept these losses. You adjust. But with every bit of privacy gone, a piece of your dignity goes with it. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself this: are you prepared to give up the quiet freedoms that come with having your own space? Because once that door starts swinging open without your say-so, it's more than just your privacy you'll miss. It's the simple feeling of being in charge of your own life. 6. Harder to leave than you think. When I first moved into the nursing home, I told myself it was just temporary, a trial run. I figured I'd give it a couple of months, see how things went, and if I didn't like it, I could always go back home. What I didn't realize was just how difficult that would be. Leaving sounded simple on paper, but the truth is, once you're in, getting out isn't just about packing your bags. It's about whether your body, your finances, and your support system can actually handle the move. For starters, my house didn't wait for me. While I was settling into my new room, my children started sorting through things, selling off furniture, giving away kitchen items they assumed I wouldn't need again. One of them even mentioned renting the place out just in case. Suddenly, the home I thought I could return to wasn't fully mine anymore. Then there's the issue of physical decline. After months of relying on help, being pushed in a wheelchair instead of walking, meals served to me instead of cooking, not having to bend, lift, or move, I wasn't as strong as I used to be. I doubted whether I could manage the stairs in my own home or even safely use the shower. Even emotionally, it was harder than I expected. I'd adjusted to the routine even if I didn't love it. The thought of disrupting everything again felt overwhelming. I also met others who had the same experience. They came in thinking it was temporary, only to realize their homes had been sold, their savings had been spent on care, and going back was no longer an option. What started as just for now became permanent before they even noticed. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself honestly, do you fully understand what you might be giving up? Not just today, but long term. Because walking through the door is easy, but walking back out? That's a whole lot harder when you no longer have the strength, the space, or the support waiting for you on the other side. Looking back, I don't regret growing older. Aging is a privilege, and I've earned every wrinkle and gray hair along the way. But what I do regret is deeply believing that a nursing home was my only choice. I walked in thinking I'd gain peace of mind, round-the-clock care, and a simpler life. And while those things were technically there, they came at a cost I never fully understood until it was too late. I lost my independence, the freedom to shape my own day. I became more isolated than I ever imagined, slowly fading from the lives of people who once saw me every week. I lost my sense of purpose, those small tasks that gave rhythm and meaning to each day. My health declined faster than I expected, not because of illness, but because of inactivity. My privacy disappeared, replaced by shared spaces and scheduled check-ins. And perhaps the most surprising of all, I realized how hard it is to leave once you're in. None of this is to say that nursing homes are all bad. Some people genuinely need that level of care. For them, it may be the safest and most practical solution. But for others, especially those still able to manage with a little help, it might not be the right move. If I could go back, I would have explored more in-home support, hiring part-time caregivers, using delivery services, installing safety rails and medical alert systems. I would have asked harder questions. I would have fought to stay in my own home just a little longer. So if you're standing at this crossroads, either for yourself or someone you love, take your time. Don't rush the decision because it seems easier. Consider what you're giving up, not just what you think you're gaining. Because your routines, your freedom, your sense of home, those things matter more than you realize. And once they're gone, you can't always get them back. Thanks for spending this time with me. I hope my story helps you make a choice that truly honors the life you've built. And whatever you decide, I wish you peace, strength, and the courage to choose what's best for you.